Hello, YouTube and Amgard. Garrett here for this week's Regent Corner. So, part two of the instruction series, we're going to talk about a little bit more tools that are, I'm not going to say more advanced, but more quality of life. Things that you don't necessarily have to have, but definitely make things easier when you have them. And there can be some nice upgrades. So, we'll go ahead and start with a few things. So some of my favorite earliest tools that are your bevel tools here. This is a nice fancy one. This is a Mastercraft one from Weaver Leather Supply, but you can buy them in all kinds of racing sheeps and stuff. These are very good. One of the things you're going to eventually want to do, and I'll go more into it, but what this does is instead of having a sharp corner edge square on your leather, this cuts and bevels the edge there. So that gives you, do it on the back and the front, it gives you a nice, very round side, makes it easier to burnish and do the edges. Definitely something you want to look into having and using when you want your projects to be more professional looking and better looking, especially for entering Dragon Masters and stuff, arts and science things. I will definitely, as a judge, take the points off if you do a piece that is not beveled and burnished, if it's makes sense. If it's something on the inside, that I'm not going to, but something like belts and stuff, things that people, a lot of bags and stuff. So that's one thing. Another one that's another nice big upgrade are oval punches. And I will definitely do a demonstration of this in a future video. Probably, maybe next week I'll do some stamping carving. Tell me what you think. You want to see a carving and stamping video next? But what this does is this punches the holes for you. So when you're doing buckles and such, it makes that round hole there so you can put your buckle in, and it just makes life easier. Do you need these? No. You can punch holes in there, and I will demonstrate that in a future video as well. But that's why this is a quality of life tool. They come in different sizes, depending on how big the hole is you want and such. These aren't necessarily things that you need to buy like every size available. I would recommend mostly buying the size that you use the most. If you're doing, like I do, a lot of 5/8 strapping on my armor and such, so I went with the 5/8 first, and that goes with a lot of the other tools I'm going to show you. So, but these are oval punch tools, very useful, very handy, but not necessarily mandatory. Like I said, it's quality of life. Next, we're going to kind of get into some cheap steel die rings here. Couple different shapes I use all the time. I don't have it with me, but I'll probably show you in a future video how I use these. These are very cheap. You can buy them in kits, and they come in multiple sizes on Temu, online, eBay, wherever. You can get them really cheap. And they're a nice little quality of life thing, especially when I want to cut perfect circles or I need to cut a hole in something. This is great. I like to use these squares when I'm doing pouches and stuff, so I always have a perfect hole. It just makes it a lot easier. One of those things, it's cheap enough and it's useful enough. The return on investment is pretty high. And like I said, once again, it's a nice little quality of life upgrade tool. Nothing too wild. Then next, I didn't grab my super nice ones, but these are my first set of round end punches I bought. Gosh, almost 7 years ago. But these are still pretty good. These are the cheaper, they come in all kinds of quality. The nicer ones tend to go for about $50, $60 a piece, so not the cheapest thing. And once again, it's not something that's not necessarily mandatory, but it does help things, especially when you want to do things like I want to do a belt or a strap. This just goes on the end. Well, you find the right one that fits. And there, you smack it, and you get a nice round end. So, and you can buy them in different. You can buy individually when they're nicer ones, more expensive, but you can buy whole sets like this. A kind of example here, fairly cheap. The one thing, if you buy the cheap ones, expect to have to do some work. They're a little bit on the dull side, so you will have to kind of sharpen them up in there, and that'll probably be another video where I talk about how to sharpen tools and such. These are going to actually be going in my mobile toolbox for when I'm at vendors, markets, and such. So round tools are a great one. Now this one here is definitely one I use all the time. This is what's called an English punch because it gives you that nice shape there. This is one of my nicer ones I use all the time. And the same thing, you're going to put it on there, you're going to punch it, and that's going to give that nice end look of a belt. Makes it look things more professional. Do you need it? No, I could easily just call that done and be happy with a AmpGuard belt. But they also come in all kinds of all the sizes, and once again, just like the round ones, I'd recommend getting the sizes you use the most common. This is a 1.5 inch belt, 1 point. I also use the 5/8. Those were like the first two I started with, because those are the ones I use the most for 5/8 strapping and stuff. So it just gives you a nice finish, makes it a more professional looking end and stuff, and that's what makes this better. I could also just sit here and just click with a pair of scissors and call it done, but I like this because speed. Those are all nice. I guess so. This is another pair. This is another thing similar to a knife. I like these. They're different ones. You can buy some. It has different things, but these are just great for chopping and cutting leather straps and stuff. So if you don't necessarily have to sit here with a razor knife and all that, so this is another nice little tool that you can buy in multiple places. Really fairly cheap, but a nice upgrade. And then another thing I have over the years have really started to like is a magnifier or some kind of like miniature painting glasses, magnifier glasses, whatever you want to call them. This happens to be the one I get from Harbor Freight. I took all the extra stuff off, so it's only just a 1.5 inch. I also took the light off. The old light sucked. It used to use like these really tiny batteries there, and I just bought a second one, and now it uses AA batteries, so I think it's a better thing. I'll have to give some feedback on that light. I just got a new one, but the magnifier really does help me when I'm doing my carving and stamping. I might just be old, but it definitely makes a huge difference. I can really see the detail and see what I'm doing when I'm cutting, carving, and stamping. So definitely something I think is maybe worth your time and money. And they come in all kinds of sizes there. This just happens to be a big one. I like this one because the visor blocks the overhead light that I probably just turned on. Way too late. It's late. I've been at park. I'm tired. But this is another very useful thing I use all the time. So let's see. So other things you can do is, like I said, a quick thing you can do is, you see here, this is a quick board I made, and I just use the leather strap and punch them there, so you can store all your punches on a set like this really quickly. Very easy thing. I didn't bring it, but things like stitching ponies are useful. One of those things, when I first started, I used it like all the time, but now honestly I don't use it that much, so your mileage may vary on that. And so another useful little tool is my roller thing. I use this all the time for doing patterns. I also use it when I'm gluing leather together, so this way I can roll and compress the leather so I get a good seal. These aren't very expensive. Some other things we'll probably get into, especially like embossing wheels and stuff like that, I'll probably get into the next video. I think I'll go ahead and do some basic stamping and stamps and carving videos. Well, carving videos a whole separate video, but I'll probably just do a stamping video next week. This one's going to be kind of short because unfortunately I'm back up in my shop, so I don't have all my tools in front of me. I might do a little tour of there because I have more, let's say, semi-professional tools like presses and my electric buffing wheel and other things that are probably aren't going to, and rivet press, things you're probably not going to need as just your run-of-the amateur leather worker as a hobbyist until you start trying to increase production time. And that's really what all these tools are about. It's all about just production time and making things look more professional, and how quickly and easily you can do it. Because yeah, I can punch the holes and cut it and use that just fine if I'm only doing one or two things. But if I'm doing like 20 belts, I want this. Same thing with the end cutters. I'm doing belts all the time. I'm doing straps all the time. These are very useful to have. And like I said before, I would just start with the sizes you tend to, that you would plan to or intend to, or you know you will use the most. Those are definitely a start. This one's kind of, to me, is a necessity, because I want my leather to look professional. I want it to look good, so I round the corners off. When you're first starting, you're just doing projects for self, you don't actually need this. You can get away with just doing plain raw edges, straight corners if you like. And then this is just a nifty little tool that I like to use there. Also sometimes a micrometer or a scale or some kind is really nice, so you can measure the thickness of the leather just to verify what you're doing. And I forgot to mention this in the last video, but a stropping board. This will probably be another video as well, how I make my own stropping boards. They're very cheap and easy, and now we'll go more into that in the strapping and the carving videos. So we'll do stamping next week. I think we'll do stamping, then probably carving, because I'd like to do that. So those are just some of the random tools that I think are quality of life tools that are really nice to have, but aren't necessary. The first video is definitely more the absolute bare minimum I think people need. And then from there, but this is some tools to consider, saving up for, shop around, find for the cheap, see if you pick it up at yard sales, that kind of thing. You can usually find a lot of antique stuff that just needs sharpening. And so you don't necessarily have to buy super high-end nice stuff. And what's the nice thing is you can buy a cheaper thing like here and then upgrade to a nicer punch. And the steel ones, they work pretty well. Same thing with your beveling tool. You can buy a cheap standard little bevel tool, and then you can just upgrade if you really want to later. And other tools, because there's a lot of tools you can use out there for alternate purposes. Like I was talking about earlier, last video this is my main scratch awl I use for all my patterns. $5 at Walmart. So you don't always have to spend big money just because of things. And I think that will do it. We'll keep this one a little short. I do apologize. I wish I had more tools to show you, but I'm trying to film my videos out in my workshop, so away from the house and the cats and family and TV and everything, so we have a nice quiet environment. And there. So with that, until next week, stay crafty.